So
We're
Mr. Irwin
teasing.
and I go way back, all the way to high school days. He was my high school theater teacher, and oh my gosh, I could go on forever about like learning under Mr. Irwin. Your classes were like one of my safe spots in high school, just where I felt safe and so free to be myself.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. That was
you made that environment for all of us. All right. Hi. I'm so happy that you're here.
Hey,
um,
I'm happy to be here. This is really cool. This is new for me as well. I mean, I've been interviewed before, but not like about life, I guess. Well,
yeah.
not specifically like life, like aspects of my life, whatever. And it's just, and then for it to be on the internet and all that, it's new. And to be asked to be, I don't know, it's the whole thing's. I'm an honor. It's an honor to be here. So
That's, that is okay. Yes,
I'm
it's
not
new
going to stammer the whole time I say this. I'm really not.
for anyone that's listening, definitely not right in this moment, but in your headphones right now. Mr. Irwin and I, I can't even call you Elvis.
That's weird.
It is weird.
That's okay.
So
We're
Mr. Irwin
teasing.
and I go way back, all the way to high school days. He was my high school theater teacher, and oh my gosh, I could go on forever about like learning under Mr. Irwin, which I'm gonna keep with that because it feels safe.
That's up to you, Jelsy. If you want to call me Elvis, that's not gonna hurt my feeling. You're what, 20?
5.
You're 25. You are 7 years removed from high school, 8 years removed from me being your teacher. If you want to call me Mr. Irwin, that's totally fine. You've always been Jelsy, so I'm going to keep calling you what I've called you since I've known you.
Yes.
That's
So yeah,
and
anyone.
for those of y'all that are watching right now, she was my best student ever. Like absolutely, without question, my best student I ever had. Period. End of story.
Thank you. Every time you say that, like it fills me with so much joy to hear, especially because like your classes were like one of my safe spots in high school, just where I felt safe and so free to be myself.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you. That was
you made that environment for all of us.
Texas of all places. Like anybody that does not know Luling, Texas, that watches this, look up Luling, Texas, and yeah, we made some really good theater there. So
We
go
really
figure.
did. Yeah. And I still think about it, and I still have some monologues memorized from theater. So I just, recite them in my shower every now and then, or impress people at parties.
That's cool. All right.
Yeah. And yes, so give us a moment. We're shaking off the rust after not talking for years other than just social media. So this is incredible. Well, let's go ahead and dive into the interview, and then we'll take the conversation from there if you are ready. Sweet.
Bring it. There we go.
So the first question that I have for you is, what are you passionate about?
I would say that I have about 5 basic passions in my life. And right now, I think my main passion in life is cooking food. I love food and I love cooking. And when I look back on it, um, even back when I was a baby, like it all started when I was a baby, and my mom would hold me. I would explain what she was doing, and it would go all the way back to being excited about helping make pancakes or waffles on Saturday and Sunday. And so it just really became, it's something I've always been excited about is cooking and being in a kitchen and making food and sharing that together. I kind of wanted to like, I guess as I thought about it, I was going to like list my 5, and then we can kind of go deeper as you wanted to. Because my other one is music. I've always had music in my life. My parents were in a band. I've been in various involvements of their bands and my own band, or coming back to their bands, or I always have music playing. Music historian. I do love music, all different kinds of music, but like in a music snob sort of way. Like I don't like all classical. I don't like all classic rock. I'm real picky, choosy like that, but I do like a little bit of everything. I love baseball. I am the biggest baseball nerd that you will ever meet, or that anybody will
I
ever meet. I'm at
remember.
least exactly. See, there you
Yes.
go. Or at least tied for first. I'm passionate about baseball today. Um, Major League Baseball's players and owners came to an agreement that they were going to finally have a season. And I love and I'm so passionate about baseball that they can be whiny little babies like this about a few thousand or a million, whatever dollars. And I don't care. I'm going to come back. I'm going to keep watching it. I want to watch a baseball game. I love the Phillies. The Phillies are my favorite team. And I love baseball. I love my family. I'm passionate about my family. I'll do anything for my family. I
Yeah.
will. I've told my wife that everything good that I do in this world, I do for her and I do for my son. Um, I moved from Luling to be closer to my parents, and my wife's parents. It's a family decision because it is about family, and I've had a very. I'm not saying that I've had like a rocky family as much as I've watched my parents and the extended family have to really fight to keep the family together. So something that's really important to me is having that strong family. So I'll come back to that. And then lastly is like knowledge and trivia. I'm always wanting to consume some bit of knowledge, but almost in a trivial fashion, always asking questions, always wondering why. Uh, I'm always consuming either like real news or Facebook bullcrap news, or I'm reading about weird things and scary things and funny things and bizarre things and intense things, but also funny and just all of it. I just love consuming knowledge any chance that I can. So this is like so cooking, music, baseball, family, and knowledge are my five big passions in life.
I'm going to repeat those again for myself to make sure I can use them to like gear the conversation. So cooking,
Uh-huh.
baseball, music, family.
Uh-huh. Right.
I don't know why I'm blanking on the last one. No, 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 no.
Every
Don't tell me. Oh, and knowledge. Duh. That was the last one you talked about. Knowledge.
right, the fact of the day, every single day.
Yes.
Every test review is a game show. Every lesson review is a game show. It's all
Nope.
about knowledge, all that. So that has not changed.
I don't know if you've ever put thought into this. Would you say that between those five passions, there's like a commonality that brings them together in a way, or that like something that's similar about all of them that makes you passionate about them or like draws you to it?
My initial instinct is to say no, there isn't. But let me think for a minute on that
Yeah.
because, well, I mean, my family is not necessarily a passion, or is it? Because like I think something that you're passionate about is something that you give your all and that you love with all of your
Yeah.
heart, and there's nothing that will stop that. So I guess in a way, family is almost like its own special pod of that part of your heart because your family is there. You're almost inherently through osmosis bred to love your family, even the bad ones that kind of drive you crazy. Like you still love them and want what's best for them. So in a way, that one kind of gets like excluded. I guess otherwise, okay. So cooking, music, baseball, and knowledge. Those are all things that challenge you. I do like a challenge. I do need a lot of stimulation. I do need to
Yeah.
always be, yeah. And I guess as an emotional person, like I do like putting my heart and my wearing my emotions on my sleeve. And when it comes to like cooking, like I worked in an open kitchen for 5.5 years, and I had to make it my own. I had to. Every time there was a double meat patty, I like Rick and Morty, so I do wubba lubba dub like really, really loud, or I make a
Yes.
joke about the cheeseburger. Why is it called chili when it's so hot? And man, just I had little things and jokes and sayings, and I just had to. But at the same time, I always wanted to be busier and busier and busier. And like right now, the new job that I'm working at, still in the restaurant industry, like I'm passionate about not cooking as much as how far can I go? How many sales can I be a part of? How big can it get? But like I'm also passionate about that intimate setting of my house. And hey, I feel like making this dish that I haven't made in 20 years. Like I think beef stroganoff. I made it, when I was like 20 something years old, and then last year I made beef stroganoff for the first time in 15 years because I wanted to do it. I wanted to challenge myself to
Yeah.
remember to know how to make beef stroganoff. And it sounds kind of silly, but at the same time, that is just I do it because I do it. I want to do it. Or like wanting to do a new technique. Like I know how to cook Vietnamese and Cajun and American and or one time I think we made Russian little like the hot pockets, but they're Russian. I forget what they're actually called. Just to do it, as the challenge of doing. And I think all of them, like baseball especially, that is the ultimate challenge of your will because if you're out 75% of the time, you are doing average. Like if you bat 250, that's okay. You're going to be a major leaguer if you can bat 250 for your entire baseball career, which means that you're out 75% of the time. That's challenging your wit, and you got to give it your all to baseball, or it's going to eat you up. I loved baseball as a kid. I played it until I was 17. It did not love me back. It did not love me back. And so that's okay, but I still love it, and it always challenged me. I guess music only challenges you that man, well, what do you want to do? How far do you want to go down the music world? Do you want to play an instrument? Do you want to play 10 instruments? Do you want to play 100 instruments? Do you want to make your own instruments? Do you want to play like just a guitar? You can play a guitar 1,000 different ways. How
Yeah.
far do you want to challenge yourself on that? So I think as I look, just to kind of wrap up what might tie them all in, this challenge. Knowledge, I guess, is the last one that I kind of haven't mentioned yet. One day I would love to be Dr. Irwin. One day I would love to have that PhD. That would be so cool to be Dr. Irwin. And I don't know how people like actually are passionate enough about academia and academia just to want to do that, to put up all that money and time and bullshit to be called a doctor. But I do. So
Yes.
that's what
I see
together.
that. I didn't know where I was going with that question when I asked it, but I'm so glad I asked because yeah, those are very hard things to tie together, but you did it. You tied it together with challenge.
Yeah, my
And then
initial answer was
also
to say no, but it was so tied together on that. So that's what's crazy.
And they're also kind of limitless in a way too, because you were mentioning with food, there's so many different things you can try. With music, there's so many different things to try. Knowledge, it's never ending. I don't know anything about baseball, so I'm not going to speak to that one, but I'm sure it's like there is maybe combinations of player things.
How about this? There has never been a perfect baseball player because nobody has ever batted 1,000. Nobody has ever
Okay.
100% of the time hit the ball safely to reach first base or beyond. That's
Yeah.
never happened. No pitcher has ever had a 0 ERA or a 0 WHIP where no batter has ever advanced past home plate, like past the at bat. That's never happened. So baseball, in a way, I guess like all sports, it's like the eternal challenge to be
Yeah.
perfect, but it's impossible to be perfect in sports.
Okay, there you go. You tied it together. Nice. So food, knowledge, music, baseball. So, you mentioned a little bit about food, that it was from like the very beginning with your mom cooking, like when you were young or just being around. You said when she was cooking. So what about like knowledge, music, and baseball? Was there a moment that you realized like, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna keep doing it?
Um, I am going to include cooking on that because I kind of have the quick note about
Oh
that. When
yeah.
I was, no, it's all good because I mean, it wasn't when my mom was, it's just always been part of my life. It was always been part of the life. But the moment that of all the ones I have an actual answer for, the cooking is the one that I have an actual moment in my life. And I remember the first time that we flew from Portland, Oregon, where I was born. We moved away when I was 9. Not the point. The first time that we flew across the country and we visited Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., New York City, went to the Carolinas, big family trip. And on our way back, we had served to us on the plane honey mustard chicken. And I'm 8 years old and I'm loving the honey mustard chicken. I don't know what it was. I don't know why, but I loved it. And so as soon as we got back, I wanted to make honey mustard chicken. And long story short, my mom went along with it all. She supported it. And when I made the honey mustard chicken, that was like
Mm.
well, that was cool. I want to do that again. I want to
Yeah.
make barbecue. I want to do, that was the moment that I can cite right now when I was 8 years old, honey mustard chicken. And then from here I am running a multi-million dollar operation restaurant. So, I mean,
Yeah.
go figure. Uh, as far as music, no, I guess not. Again, it's always been around me. In a way, I think when I grieved, or at least started grieving the death of my father, was really when I like grabbed to a playlist for support more than any other time.
Mm.
And I guess that was when I really like realized how much I constantly need music kind of in my soundtrack.
Yeah.
Whether, and I, yeah, like it can be early in the morning, it can be in the car by myself with the family while I'm cooking. It's kind of weird. I can't cook anymore unless I'm listening to music, often with a drink in my hand, and I can't cook without a hat on. I have to wear
Yeah.
a hat because go figure. But the music has to be there. It's just such a part of who I am, and it can be, yeah. I guess like for my family, when my son was born, was really when or I don't know, because like family and the passion about my family, I have kind of a goal, I guess, and having only one child sort of uh, chop blocks the skull a little bit, but like I'd love to be the patriarch of a big family. I would love to be like that. Me and my wife at the trunk of the Irwin family. Here's why I say that, because like my father was adopted. He got Irwin by name. He was not a blood Irwin. Um, and my mother was not a blood Irwin. She was a Bell. That was her family name. And so really years ago, like as I came into manhood and thought about family and all this, I really am like the first Irwin of my generation. Or I really am like that starter, like me and my wife, and now like my son, like to move on that family tree. So it would be really cool for me to see that tree grow as much
Yeah.
as possible, as long as possible, or at least for me and my part, my life to lead to this big Irwin family tree that started with me and my wife. So that's like something that like I think about pretty not pretty often, but if I think about it.
Did that
Um,
uh did
Go
that
ahead.
thought come into mind after you had your son, or was it even after you started, um like even after you got married?
Actually, when I met the girl that would become my wife, she did
Mhm.
not want to have kids. That was something she didn't want to do. And so we liked each other a lot. We had a lot in common. We clicked. It was instant chemistry. And I couldn't pinpoint how many weeks months we had been dating when it came up. But it was like, hey, I love you and everything, but I need to have a son at least. However many children that takes, I need to have a son. That's really important to me. It's a deal breaker. And so she had to think about that. We had to think about that. So before I met her, it was definitely a priority that I had the legacy. And I guess honestly, it was weird. One way to put it is I have wanted to have this family and the legacy since before I liked girls. Like when I was like in kindergarten or whatever, like I knew I wanted to have a family, but you're like six, so
Yeah.
girls are girls,
Yeah.
all that. So I still had those two feelings, when I was, yeah, um, yeah.
That does answer my question. So music and well, so we covered music. So baseball and knowledge.
Man, baseball. Like I said, I loved baseball. Baseball did not love me back. I don't have a moment when I loved baseball. I was signed up for t-ball, at 4, because I liked baseball, as a little one, and my parents wanted to get me in the sport because what parent doesn't want to get their kid involved in the sport if they can? And I just did. I just did it. Man, I loved it. I really did. As far as like being a nut about it, when did I start being a baseball nut? I
Mhm.
guess I started becoming a baseball nut when we moved to Philadelphia. And the year before we moved to Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Phillies went to the World Series. And I guess if I was to pry to look for a real answer, a catalyst of mine was Mr. Heikemper. Mr. Heikemper was technically my third grade teacher, but due to overcrowding, me and two girls, we were moved to a fourth grade class. So by proxy, I was taking fourth grade classes in the third grade. And Mr. Heikemper was the teacher until he had some kind of medical thing pop up and then he left. But in his short time, he was very influential, very dry sense of humor. Like you might remember, I had a pretty dry sense of
Yes.
humor. That's totally Mr. Heikemper. Uh, but he also would give out baseball cards for prizes. Um, and just in his own way, he made all of us third and fourth graders want these baseball cards. And the Phillies were doing good and all this kind of stuff. And I was moving to Philadelphia, and so my kind of feelings for Mr. H and those stupid baseball cards and I had already liked baseball, but now I'm moving to the town with the defending National League champions, and I just kind of consumed it. And I guess, I really hit my stride on, during that time in the mid 90s when I had all the time in the world and no internet to watch, stupid memes and stupid
Yes.
videos. So for me, it was Baseball Weekly, like this old newspaper. I don't think it exists anymore. It came out once a week and it was just about baseball. And I read the shit out of it every single week. And that led to reading other baseball things. I guess, okay. So no, that's not really like moments, but like I would just be rambling about baseball and why I love it so much. Um,
But you did get down to the beginning to getting those cards, and that kind of made like kind of something shifted or clicked at least. And then it over time it progressed and got even more, as you say, nutty.
yeah, I mean, and I guess that's when we moved to Philadelphia, is when my father pulled out his crusty old box of cards that he picked up from a thrift store or something like that at one point. And they were from 1982, so they weren't like that old. I don't know how he got them, but then I had an instant baseball card collection. I started collecting the cards. I guess as one thing led to another, led to another. Baseball's a very easy hobby because the characters are so fun to read about. Like you've got your Yogi Berra and your Ernie Lombardi, and Babe Ruth has a great story. Jackie Robinson has a great story. I mean, there's the whole history of baseball, and they were doing integration before integration was a thing. They were doing, Jackie Robinson and how about oh, for the love of God, and Cleveland Indian, Larry Doby, the first African American to play in the American League, who very shortly after Jackie Robinson, he had to put up with the same hardships that Jackie Robinson did. But I say all of that because baseball is such an old game and such a storied game that I guess it just drew me in. And so I guess the real moment was moving to a town with an actual old school baseball team that I could go to the games for $5 and watch, with a parent, one or both of them, and we could watch it on TV without even trying. And, I'm not having to I'm live in Portland and tolerate a Dodger game or an AA game or a Mariner game. No, I'm watching the team that is literally a mile from my house. So it meant a lot more and it just carried over with me. So I think that maybe the move from Portland to Philadelphia, maybe one way for me to kind of like channel this big transition in my 9-year-old life was in this baseball team. If I wanted to look at it as a psychologist, which I'm not, but I've taken one psychology class. Um, yeah, I could go on about baseball for hours. You don't want
Yeah,
to get me
and
started
it's
on
so
baseball.
I'm a little mesmerized. One, because you remember so much about baseball, and every time, like, I don't even know what the rules are really. Like, I have a general idea, but I'm like, yeah, I don't know much about it. So I feel like I'm learning too, and and that kind of goes on. It's very similar to your craving for knowledge. Like baseball, like you're just consuming so much like history and knowledge and information about people and rules.
The numbers, anybody who likes numbers, if you like math, you like baseball. I promise anybody who watches this, if you like baseball, you also kind of like math. That's really, really important. And I don't know what it is, but I like math. I'm really good at arithmetic. You know, I came up with my own statistical systems, and me and my old man came up with our system. And I'm just, I could go on. Just, but math, I don't know. It's a nerd game. It's totally the nerd sport. Without
How
question,
does
it is the nerd sport.
how is there math in baseball? If you can tell me in layman terms for someone that doesn't know much about baseball.
Sure. I mean, long story short, I guess so. How do you explain it? I mean, however you want to look at how good a player is, you have to approach it with math. Because you
Okay.
can look at, for example, um, Sandy Koufax. Sandy Koufax, over 10 years, won well over 200 games. So therefore, he won. What? No, that's not in layman's terms. So in layman's terms, just when it comes to the math, because the numbers are the numbers.
Yeah.
And so for a pitcher, I'll give one basic statistic for a pitcher and for a batter, and go
Okay.
from there. For a pitcher, your ERA is how many runs you give up every 9 inning game. Whether you play 9 innings, whether you play 1 inning, it's just we're going to imagine that you play 9 innings, a whole baseball game. How many runs do you give up? Do you let the other team score while you're pitching, while you're in charge of the ball?
Okay.
So the higher that number, that means you give up five runs a game. That's a lot. So, but well, what about like Sandy Koufax, who I said a moment ago, who gave up like 2.3, so like 2 1/3 runs every 9 innings, which is pretty good. If you can only give up that many, that's so good. So like you can compare a player through just a real basic number like an ERA, for example. Just like with a batter, their batting average, if it's higher, that means that more often they're hitting the ball where somebody else isn't, so they can get on base. Versus which is out of 1,000, like 100%, but we use it to the 1,000th place. I'm getting out of layman's terms again. So but the lower the batting average, that means the less they're getting on base. And if you're not getting on base, your team is not scoring runs, and that's the whole point of offense, is to score runs, right? I mean, that makes sense. But the whole fun part of that's where you really can look at these numbers over the years and be like, I'm trying to like, okay, a guy like Ty Cobb could lead the major leagues with 7 home runs in like 1919, something like that. You know, but now, you know, you've got guys hitting 30, 40, 50 home runs all the time. But the game is more built today to hit home runs than it was back when Ty Cobb was leading the league with like 7 home runs.
Oh.
So it really becomes like a nerd thing and a math thing. Is somehow trying to figure out a way, and I'll tie this, I'll cinch this point up, is like really looking at, well, maybe Ty Cobb had more value than hitting home runs?
I see what you're
Or
saying.
in comparison to what he did his time, would they get players of today still be hitting 30, 40, 50 home runs in Ty Cobb's era? Is that how it would, when the ball was looser and, you know, not tight as tight, and we're not, you know, we're in bigger ballparks and things like that? And then a guy named Bill James came along in the late 90s, early 2000s, and he came up with a system where you could look at players, and he came up with win shares and runs created, where he put all these numbers, and I'm not going to try to explain to anybody here, all these numbers to figure out how many wins your player contributed to, how many runs your player helped create. And it's crazy. So that way you could compare any player from any era and look at their value. I could go on. I mean, like
That is so cool.
Well, like Mark Fidrich played for 3 seasons, and it was 3 of the best seasons in baseball history, but then he blew his arm out and he couldn't pitch anymore. Did that make him the best pitcher of all time? Well, what about like Randy Johnson, who pitched for 23 years and he won over 300 games and all that kind of stuff? So math, argument, nerds, beer, and a game that lets you sit there and argue all day long. I mean, that's baseball. I love it. I can keep going.
That I had no clue that all of that went into baseball at all. Wow.
It does.
Now you know. And that was layman enough. I
Good.
somewhat understand now. So you remembered some of the moments. We went through food and music and baseball. We didn't quite touch on knowledge. Did you want to touch on that before we moved on to the next question?
I guess just long story short, like maybe a long story, but academia knowledge has always been, we value that in my family. Always have. When I was a kid, good grades were the expectation. If I got B's, why are they not A's? If it was a 92, 93, why is it not 100? That was, and that did lead me to being a third grader in a fourth grade class, going to J.R. Masterman Middle School for science and mathematics, where you had to take a test and be, part of the elite of Philadelphia. And that was important, but it was part of, I guess, looking for approval from my parents. I really wanted to, what kid doesn't? What kid doesn't want the
Yeah.
approval of their parents? And so thankfully, it was a healthy thing. It was work hard and do well in school. And then I went to the magnet school, high school for take two, the High School for Creative and Performing Arts of Philadelphia, which again had to take a test, had to audition, had to do well with attendance. You've got to behave, be on time, punctual, things like that. So, and then you go to college and your parents are paying for it and you really need to do well at that. So I guess hand in hand with that, always enjoyed Jeopardy, always enjoyed the game shows. Not like a moment. It's just always been part of who I am. I love knowledge. I'm just a nerd. It's part of being accepted.
Outside of your passions, what else do you have going on?
Well, family's a passion, so I can't say family, but I guess so. I do enjoy a good video game, and honestly, I've played the least amount of video games in the last 3 weeks as I'm going on this journey right now in my career, and going into this new company, and all of its challenges. And I say that because video games, it's kind of weird because I don't play very many, but the ones that I play, I want to put my all into, because if you're going to do anything, do it right, put everything into it. But as I get older, I do it less. I play it less. It's definitely something good to keep my hands busy, because I'm definitely I got to keep my hands busy kind of guy. So very often, my wife and I are watching a show and I'm also playing a game, but I'm doing that the whole time and I'm keeping up with both and just keeps my hands busy. So I guess video games are my vice as far as something not productive that I'm passionate about. Or another answer, honestly, is art of all kinds. I mean, I was a theater teacher, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And in a way, I don't know. I don't really want to go into any frustrations about music, because I have some frustrations about the passion of my music. And if I had known that these frustrations would be popping up, and I really don't want to go into that right now, because there's more to it than that, but I would probably have auditioned for a play some years ago. I would have totally been more involved in the theater. And that being so the video games, I love video baseball, I love video basketball, I love Minecraft. Because if I'm gonna play Minecraft, I'm gonna win Minecraft. But my son likes playing it, my brother-in-law likes playing it. But I've kind of been there and done that with that game. I've been there and done that with No Man's Sky. I've been there and done that with video games. And so, as they come out, it's harder to be a casual fan. It's harder to be something that I can just love and enjoy. It's kind of a chore. It's kind of a job. It's kind of there's somebody out there that's more focused with more time on their hands than you. So they're going to be just inherently better at it than you, or have the cooler stuff, or whatever it is. And it's kind of becoming all BS. So that's my main time waste, aside from my cooking, music, baseball, family, and knowledge.
Yeah, and you're saying this typically, most of the people that I've interviewed in the past, they're a little flipped in that they have like they have a job that they go to that is not their passion, and then outside of work they work on their passion. But on the like on your end, you are doing what you're passionate about, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes, because it's funny. That's what's really funny about it. So this is some wisdom that I learned from Jay Jennings, Texas State University.
Yeah, tell us.
Snow white haired movement teacher, a man of the theater. And for years, he did everything theater, musical, traveled the country, the world. But for some years, he worked as a computer programmer in a closet full of computers. And one day he just kind of was like, I can't do this anymore. This is not what it is. And his wisdom was sometimes you have to, how did he say it? Sometimes you have to do what you don't want to do for a living before you realize it's what you don't want to do, or before you realize what you do want to do. Like he was trying to say, like he had to go down that path of being a computer programmer because that's what he wanted to do. But he did it to then learn, no, God, no, this is not what I want to do. Let's do something else. So when I was in college, I worked in restaurants the first time. And I loved to cook since I was 8 years old. Let's just say 8 years old, I loved to cook. And so I did that in college to, I guess, like other people you've interviewed. That was my job. I was working on my passion of my theater degree to be a theater teacher. And so then I did theater and I did it for 8 years. And honestly, Jelsy, man, I mean, you and I kind of, we messaged a little bit about my feelings on the move from, Leland to the other school that I don't really like saying the name of, honestly, because I don't have anything nice to say about them.
Yeah.
But if teaching theater was about teaching theater, I'd still be doing it, to be completely honest with you. Being a teacher is so much more political and is so much more outside of teaching children. It really is. And that's really sad. And I could not, as much as I would have accepted like another job if like something in the area had come to me, I was not going to move across the country to just take any old job. I was not going to move to 500 miles to Dallas or to Houston or somewhere else in Texas away from my family just to do more of what teaching is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say is, not just was, but is. So therefore, I guess that's where it helps to have a second passion.
Yeah, exactly. Or a third, or a fourth, or a fifth.
The dream job, the real dream, I'm going to come back. The real dream job is radio baseball broadcaster.
Ooh.
Only 30 guys in the world get to do it. Only 30 guys in the world get to do it. And if I could broadcast a baseball team through the radio, I could do that till the day I died. I would do it till the day I died, and I would be happy. Super happy.
And you're knowledgeable and theatrical. You sound like you would be a great radio broadcaster for baseball.
Well, and so, okay, like that, something I was going to bring up later when it was our time to kind of go wherever, then I want to kind of tie in with working your passion versus working a job and then having your passion on the side. Because originally, I'm not going to, they say not to do it when you become a theater teacher. They say, we don't want you to want to be an actor or a movie star, director, and then teaching is your backup plan.
Yeah.
They were very clear about that. And that was not really me. I mean, I got my job 3 days before I officially graduated college. But my point is, like, if you want to be an actor, if that's really your passion, you need time and money so you have somewhere to stay, and so you can get the nice clothes, so you can get the headshots, so you can pay the union fees. And that does not come out of thin air. And, one time I was at a convention, and of all the good stories, I'm going to tell a bad one. I was at a convention with the school that shall not be named, and they brought one of these girls from Glee. I don't remember which one. Please don't ask.
Oh, wow.
They brought one of these from Glee to be a guest speaker. There's 5,500 kids here. It's in Dallas. It's huge. And her story was that she was from Long Island. Her parents had all this money. They had all this time. They would literally drive at like 1 in the morning to get parked first in line for her to audition. She would sleep in the back. They would just camp for as long as needed to make sure she got her exposure. And I'm hearing this story and I'm like, girl, you got 5,500 kids here. And I bet some of these kids come from pretty nice homes, pretty privileged homes, but you are sending a message of your elite privilege
Yeah.
of like, of course, anybody that wants to be an actor would love to have somebody that will drive them while you sleep to get first place in line for an audition. And you don't have to pay your food. You don't have to pay your bills. You don't have to pay anything. Otherwise, that's why so many people move to LA and they become waiters.
Yeah.
To pay their bills, or they get 3 jobs, or they work at Starbucks as a barista, or something like. Which I understand Starbucks takes real good care of you if you want to get a
They
college
do.
degree and things like that.
Yes.
Or so I've heard from certain people that I may know. So that's the thing is that like I can honestly. So it's almost I don't really want to get into politics, but if we were going to get into politics, then let me just say this: like if socialism was a thing where I was guaranteed like a flat income and a guaranteed residence, and I was never going to be evicted, and I was always going to have food, and that was just paid for, and I never had to do any of that worry, I would not work in a restaurant. I wouldn't. I would be a writer. I would be a painter. I would be an actor. I would be a teacher. I'd be a philosopher. That's what I would do. But those don't pay money unless you're already making it.
I see what you're saying.
That is a catch-22 about living your passion, working your passion. And I got a buddy named Charlie that he honestly, he starves on the streets. He really does. He starves on the streets. He has been gifted pennies and few dollars through Venmo from his friends that like see him living this struggling life on the streets but every dime he can get, if it's not like his basic necessities just to sleep another night, it's on watercolors. So he can watercolor because that's what he wants to do. He's a painter.
Yeah.
That's his life. And he says he'll paint anything. And that I respect that so much, that you're willing to like live on the street if that's what it takes to completely, fully commit to art.
Yeah. Does Charlie have any social media or does he sell his art online at all?
Yeah, he does. I'll tell you right now though, he's out there cat, man. He really is. He was kind of out there in high school. But like what Charles Vic Duncan, I think is his handle on Facebook. He's pretty out there. I mean, he's got tattoos on his cheeks.
Yeah.
His girlfriend right now, he looks pretty happy right now. But like he's got a Facebook. Again, it's Charles Vic Duncan, I'm pretty sure, old Charlie. And his art's, it's out there. I mean, I think some people, I'm this kind of artist. I'm the kind of artist where I can't necessarily make something that looks pretty, but I will paint something that will grab your attention. And that's Charlie. He's definitely you're going to look at it. Oh, okay. Wait, let me look at that again.
Yeah.
And it's intense. It's intense. He's had a life. So if anybody looks up his art and you're like, holy shit.
I was about to say, if he's okay with it too, I would like to put the link like to support him as well in the description of like where I post this.
If anybody, I don't know him that well. We're old high school friends. I'm not here to be like an agent or a representative to get that permission. But I've said his name a couple times. Look him up on Facebook. You'll find him.
Sweet. So I had another question and then one more time. Can you repeat what you learned from your theater teacher? Could you say again about like sometimes you have to work certain jobs in order to find the true job that you love and that you're passionate about? Can you say that just one more time so it really like sinks in to anyone that's listening?
Pressure to be verbatim. Here we go. Something like.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be verbatim.
That's my dry. Sometimes you have to do what you Well, what sounds better? Let's talk about this together then.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do what you want to do to learn that's not what you want to do, or sometimes you have to do what you don't. I feel like a heel. I swear, like I resonated with me at the time. And now when I say it out loud, it sounds like it doesn't make
No,
sense.
I see what you're saying.
The wisdom to walk away with, anybody that wants to walk away with, it's that just don't, you have to go out there and live these passions and live your life. And your experiences aren't always going to be good, but you're going to learn from them.
Yeah.
You know, my 2 years at the school that will not be named, did I learn from that experience? Oh, hell yes. Oh, yes. Did I ever? When I was a little kid, I loved pro wrestling. So when I was like 6, my parents signed me up for wrestling classes, like amateur Greco Roman, like you see in the Olympics. I did that for 2 seasons. I hated it, Jelsy. I hated it. Hated it. I was bad at it. These kids were better at it than me. I didn't want to do it anymore. I'll just watch it at home. That's fine. But I did it. I tried it.
Yeah.
You know, you've shared about cross country, and I really hope, man, the fact that you were able to do that, and you to this day, it sounds like you run a mile a day or something like that. Man, that is so. My hat, my hat goes off to you. To have that discipline. You know, I had some pretty good physical wellness discipline, exercise wise, when I was doing keto 4 years ago, but it's tough. It's tough to do that every single day. And just cross country alone, just to run, that's I'll do my exercise. I can't run, man. I'm not a runner. I'm just not. So that's my hat goes off to you.
It takes time to
Um,
build it up for sure.
but that all time ties in with you lived your life. You went and you did
Yeah,
something to, well, I don't want to do this anymore. But you did
exactly.
it.
Yeah, exactly. And there's like when you look back on it, it does put you on the right path to where you need to be. So it's okay to try out different things, and it's okay to maybe work a job that sucks for a little while because it might take you to where you need to be.
Sometimes you have to do what you don't want to do for a living before you realize it's what you don't want to do. I think that's what he said.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes you have to do what you don't want to do for a living before you realize it's what you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Because I think also part of that was he was in a room full of kids who you have to imagine were the best of their class,
Yeah.
or felt like they were going to be actors, they were going to be stars on Broadway. So I think he was also trying to say a positive message of do it, push it as far as you can. But if you're going to do it right, like really do it. And if you're not willing to do that, then this isn't for you,
Yeah.
which is okay. Which is okay.
It is okay. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very true. Thank you for sharing that wisdom and passing it along.
Well,
Um,
I sure try.
so you're saying the restaurant job isn't your passion, but within that job though, you are doing something like you're cooking, which is something that you really enjoy.
So if I was to take like a hop, skip, and a jump about cooking and passion and work. So when I was in college, I got to the point where I was making the same stuff every day, 5 days a week, and I did not get to have a say in the menu. It was no voice, it was just do. And
Mhm.
that got very not heartbreaking, but that wears on you, especially when you love to cook.
Yeah.
So for years, I didn't cook for a living. And so I really, if I was going to cook something at home, I put all my heart into it. And it was just a passion that I just enjoyed doing. I love Thanksgiving dinner. I love cooking Thanksgiving dinner. Am I tired at the end of it? Yes. Um, here's, and then my jump,
Yeah.
and then I'll come back because I have a really good one when I say this. So then when I needed that second career and I worked at Longhorn Cafe after teaching had fallen apart, that was different because I immediately was the boss. So I did immediately have say every day as to what we were doing. Not necessarily on the menu and stuff, but it was kind of above that and beyond that. You know, I ran the entire place. And so now with this new operation that I'm in, it's like how to do it's not even like the cooking you do at home. It's not. It's because we're serving so many guests. It's large batch cooking. And
Okay.
so So it's like a different skill altogether. And so it's like a different branch of my passion of cooking. So, well, do I still love cooking at home for my family because it's so much better than eating in a restaurant? Yes, I do. Absolutely. Am I really good at it so I can milk that talent to make a lot of money for my family? Yes, I can. That's what I intend to do. So it's kind of hand in hand, but what I'm doing now is so separate from that art, the artist of being a chef. That is completely separate from what I'm doing for a living. So I'm okay with that. That's like a good separation of, but like, here's another sign of passion. And maybe you can relate to your cross country time because I know that like there's a lot of cleat digging and falling down and
Yep.
ice lungs and all this stuff. So cooking is the number one thing. I have cut myself, I have burned myself, I have steam burned myself, and I still want to do it.
Yeah.
I still want to do it. I can tell myself, oh, that's a bad cut. Oh my God, it hurts so bad. Ah, whatever. And then it sort of band-aid it up and go back to doing it. It's okay. One time I remember just like I was like playing a video game or something like that, right? And right here was a big old burn, like a big old burn. And my wife goes, how'd you get that? And I just kind of like looked at her and I was like, I just gotten to the point where I think it was when I was cleaning something one time and I think I touched the grill. But like seriously, I'm just so consumed with the world of the kitchen that I burn my arm so bad it raises my wife's concern and I didn't even flinch. I didn't even flinch, man. Like my fingers are all cut up with lines of the years of learning. And so I think that's a real passion. Anytime. So like either whether it's all the pains of being an artist, like a painter artist or an actor or doing the cross country, or right now you're going through the growing pains of your business here and all of your
Yep.
channels and exactly, man. And so you get burned all the time. You're getting
Yeah.
cut every day and you're feeling the pain, like it's real pain, but damn it all, you want to keep doing it.
Yeah. Yes.
So and between cooking and baseball, like baseball didn't love me back. It gave up on me at one point. I just wasn't good enough. So, but cooking never did that to me. So here I am.
And so you have a few different passions, and then you also have work and family, also part-time passion. Yes, passion. So why do you balance all of this? Why do you keep them going?
I'm a Libra.
Me too.
For those of you who don't know, our birthdays are next to each other.
Yes, they
So
are.
yeah,
They're like what, one day apart?
I'm the
20
23rd and you're the 4th, right?
24th. Yeah, 23rd, 24th.
Yeah. And I'm on the cusp of Libra, so that means I'm like a super Libra.
Yeah.
So everything about fairness and balance and being like obsessed with making sure that we are doing the fair thing
Yup.
for everybody.
Yes.
Like I can go into a situation with like a plum situation, and I'm still like, I don't know, you guys. I feel kind of weird about having it so good. Are you sure you don't want more response? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, is that more I can do for you? Um, that's a short answer, though. Just I'm a Libra. I'm about the balance. I'm a well balanced individual.
Yeah.
Yes, which is weird. I'm a nut. I mean, I really am. I drive myself crazy.
But as long as it's balanced, it's great. Um, so how do you make time for it? Why do you make time for it? So here's the big like biggest question, I guess, and no pressure. I say the biggest just because like it's the purpose of this podcast, really, because the reason that I created this section in the podcast, which is where I'm like taking my podcast, since I've finished another aspect of it. So I'm just doing the passion series now. The reason I'm doing this is because passion is something so beautiful in human life. It's part of the human experience, but some people, they don't pursue their passions for different reasons. So one, like maybe it doesn't make them money, or it costs them more money than they're actually making from it, or it takes too much time, they're too busy, they're afraid they're not going to be good at it. So there's all of these different reasons why some people out there, maybe someone that's listening to this right now, isn't committing to their passion or making time for it. So the reason that I've created this podcast is for those people that are missing out on their passion or that experience in life because of some reason. So do you have any advice for anyone that's out there that has a passion, but may be fearful to follow it for some reason?
Yes. With that, and with before I say that, like I think there's one other reason that people don't necessarily pursue their passion, and it does tie in with what my advice is. And that was a former coworker of mine. She was my assistant general manager, um, and she loved her job, but not really. Her passion was to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
It was an extenuating circumstance. She could not just be a mom. She could not just be a stay-at-home mom. Her husband was a son of a bitch, and she had a daughter. You know, she had a daughter that she needed to support because he was not going to do that for various reasons. And so we would have those very stressful days when we were getting slammed, and especially during COVID, it was mentally straining. We were short-staffed, and we'd be next to each other in the middle of it all. And she would just be so down and so sad. She just wanted to be a mom. And I would tell her, I'd be like, I'm living my dream running a restaurant. Even bad days, I'm still living my dream. Your dream is to be a mom, And so, like, that is what I would tie in with my advice. Like, if it's a passion is truly a passion. Like, it is you, it is who you are, and you need to do it with no fear. Maybe calculated movements, maybe you take it certain directions just to kind of continue that balance of living your passion, but maintaining the stability of just the reality of life, that roof over your head, the food in your children's, bellies, and everything that goes with just life, cars and insurance. But you have to do it. Whatever it is that you're passionate about, you do it with no fear. And never be afraid to live that passion, because it's just worth it. You're living your life, and everything that you do, another way of looking at it is everything in life has bullshit. I'm not going to say a whole bunch of swears, but that is just the word for
No,
it.
you're good. Go for it.
No matter what it is that you do in life, everything. I had this conversation today with one of the people that's training me. Everything you do in life has bullshit to it. If you're a professional chocolate taster, there is some degree of bullshit that you have to go through, probably. That you're like, oh, if I have to rinse my mouth out with this club soda one more time, I swear. Or if I have to fill out that TPS report one more time, I swear. You could be a professional roller coaster rider, but there's something about it. So you just have to find what it is about those cuts and burns, about that bullshit, about the negatives. So you don't care because it's what you want to do. It's what you live for. And honestly, I really hope that people just naturally gravitate towards what they are happy doing. And for some people, it really is just like knitting, sitting on their couch and knitting. And for some people, they're teachers for 30 years and then they retire and then they come back because I'm a teacher. That's what I do. What am I going to do? Sit at home? I got a lady from the old job, 77 years old, and she's still breaking her ankles and her knees and her back every single day working on that restaurant. Because what's she going to do? Sit at home? No, that's her passion, is running a restaurant. That's what she does. So I'm going to pass on this. This is a quote of inspiration that you can write down. It is easy to find. It is a controversial author, but very wise, very powerful. We're all going to die, so find something that you love and let it kill you. By Charles Bukowski. We're all going to die, so find something you love and let it kill you. And like that really, like how That's such a beautiful way to say it.
Yeah,
I think that's a beautiful and powerful way to say it.
it is. No, I'm so glad that you read that too, even thinking about my life. And right now, my baby and my passion is coaching and spreading like health and wellness and self-love and yeah, just the effects that it has on people when you can help them and talk them through things that they've been struggling with for years. Um, and yeah, I'm at the point where it is like it's so much. It is so much work. So that is a beautiful quote. Can you say it one more time?
To listen to the entire episode, if you are really vibing with us and you love what's going on, please do click the link to the podcast version of this episode that is only audio and much easier to post 2 hours of content online. So you can find that link in the bio or on whatever your favorite podcasting platform is. Thank you for listening.